another IRSCL honorary fellowship to award this year. And this award, the IRSCL Honorary Fellow for Outstanding Contributions to IRSCL and Research in Children's Literature for 2025, goes to Emer O'Sullivan. Dear colleagues, dear Emer, it is an incredible honor that on behalf of the IRSCL board, I can offer the honorary fellowship to Professor Emer O'Sullivan. Emer represents all the qualities and values that we try to honor in this society: innovative thinking, rigorous scholarship, an international orientation, and a great sense of collegiality and support for students and other scholars. Emer O'Sullivan has been contributing to our field for over 30 years. She got her PhD from the Freie Universität Berlin in 1987, and then her Habilitation, yes, it's not done for the Germans after one PhD. She got that in 1999 from the Goethe-Universität in Frankfurt. This study was the basis for what is probably her best-known book, Kinderliterarische Komparatistik, which won the IRSCL Book Award in 2001 and was consequently translated as Comparative Children's Literature by Anthea Bell, if I'm not mistaken, the famous Anthea Bell. And that book then went on to win the Children's Literature Association's Book Award in 2007. This book, I think, is foundational for anyone who studies translations and transnational transfers in our field, and it's rich with its useful theoretical frameworks, concepts, and compelling examples. Since 2004, Emer is professor of English literature at the Leuphana Universität Lüneburg, where she's won several awards for her teaching, and anyone who's heard her talk will not be surprised. She's not only a very original thinker, but also a very engaging speaker. The most recent award on Emer's shelf is the Brothers Grimm Award from the Institute of Children's Literature in Osaka. It acknowledges the enormous impact of Emer's research on our field. She has published on a wide variety of topics, often but not exclusively in the field of comparative literature. One of her articles which I personally find most insightful is her piece on imagology in our own journal, IRCL. It's the kind of article that makes you see characters, but also the world and yourself differently. So I highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. Not surprisingly, Emer is one of the scholars that my students most often cite, and then they often get her pronouns wrong. It's not a common name, I have to say, in Belgium. But in fact, if I'm honest, Emer is also the only Emer that I know, even among my Irish friends. Perhaps there is only one. I wouldn't be surprised if she was quite unique, but in preparation for this speech, I did look up her name, and as it happens, there are more Emers. On the website, The Bump, which helps you pick baby names, it says that Emer is a favorable choice for those who are quick in body and mind. I'm not sure about the first, and I promise we won't test it, but the second definitely applies. Emer is very quick in mind. In addition to her scholarship, Emer has given a lot of service to our field and to our society in particular. From 2001 to 2005, she was on the IRSCL board, and in the last 2 years, she was our vice president. She's also paid great service to the Irish and German societies for children's literature. And I know from experience, from personal experience, that Emer has also been a great mentor to junior scholars. We first met at Roehampton when I was a student or a PhD student. I don't quite remember. I think it was around 2002. And one of the things that I like about Emer, in addition to her sense of humor and her kindness, is that she can be quite open and honest. So in our first conversations, she did not hide that she found my idea for a PhD a bit strange. As we were talking on a bus to London, she kept asking questions like, but what do you mean, Vanessa? Now, when the PhD was finished, one of the best compliments I got was from Emer. Now I get it, she said. Mission accomplished. Now, last year, Emer and her good friend, I think her academic soulmate, Gillian Leety, were invited at the Children's Literature and Translation Conference in Stockholm. They didn't have to give keynotes, but they were invited to play the role of wise ladies, just observing and, in the end, commenting on the papers. Of course, they both thought it was incredibly funny. And now I want to close by saying that the term wise seems appropriate for Emer because she's obviously gathered a lot of knowledge and expertise. But in age studies, it's often pointed out that wisdom is also a way of relegating people to the margins. Wisdom is then associated with a lack of passion, a sense of detachment, no longer having ambitions. In that sense, I truly hope that Emer does not consider herself too wise, but that she wants to keep staying passionate about our field and that she wants to keep contributing to it. So many thanks, Emer, for all that you have done and hopefully will continue to do for IRSCL in the field of children's literature studies.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, for these very touching words. I'm having difficulty keeping my eyes dry. I hardly recognize myself in the praise that you're uttering. And I'd like to thank the IRSCL, the board, for this huge honor. It means so much to me. First of all, I was there in 2001 when Klaus Doderer was given the very first award by Sandra, it was mentioned earlier. And the idea that I follow in his and Jutta Klingberg's footsteps is wonderful, and also the fact means an awful lot to me. Hi, Sandra, that I'm being awarded the fellowship in conjunction with Sandra, with whom I served on the board and who I think really highly and fondly of. So that's a double honour. Isa mentioned earlier that I was at the very first conference here in Salamanca in 1989. I'd like to say, like Evelyn in her keynote where she said she started very young. I was only a child at the time, of course, when I came to Salamanca in 1989. But it was my very first international presentation. And so it kicked off my international career as a children's literature scholar. And I'll be retiring actually in September this year. I won't stop researching and writing and reading, but my active university time is over. So it's really a very significant circle has been closed for me, having started in Salamanca in 1989 and receiving this award here today. So it really means a huge amount to me. And the IRSCL, I mean, we hear it over and over again, where people say, you don't have a community of scholars anywhere else, certainly not locally. I've spent most of my active university career in a university where I haven't only been the only person in my department, but I've been the only person in my university to look at children's literature. And then when you go on a national level, you find wonderful colleagues, but there are very few who are engaging with international or comparative topics. And it's really to the IRSCL that you have to come to meet these wonderful, wonderful colleagues from all over the world who share interest and who are just so motivated to further the course of children's literature studies on an international stage and in a comparative way. So this means a huge amount to me. It really does. Thank you very much, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, for the wonderful words of praise and for the huge honour of being an IRSCL Honorary Fellow. Thank you very, very much.